This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
I had the best words. Tolerized. I know words. Mike Pounds.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation.
But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated.
One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
I had the best words.
God bless the United States.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Why, you're getting nervous, man. Who's got a hammer?
Thursday. Welcome to the show. We got a good one. We're gonna have fun. We got Hog Watch today, meaning we're gonna talk about, of course, we got more Mike Pillow. You asked for it, you receive Mike Pillow. No, but we got more stuff as well. We're wrapping up the Cyber Symposium, but then of course we're gonna talk about Dan Crenshaw. And get into kind of what the Republican Party under Trump has created. Real fascinating, fun stuff. Then of course Rand Paul busted. We got some corruption. We got accidental tourists. Yes, we got more MAGA insurrectionists that are trying to weasel them their way out of course, any sort of consequences for what they did on January 6th. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene. What is an accidental tourist? Good question. We are going to talk about that. Stay with the show. That's going to be a fun segment. Actually, that's got to be my favorite of the day. But there's so many good stories today. So really stick with me. How many Jeffs are in the frame? Three. I know. What are you talking about? Shameless self-promotion. What is that? No, never. I would never do such. What are you talking about? All right, so let's have fun. Actually, you know what? I want to quick give a note about the census. So this is going. This is trending right now, and you're gonna see a lot of these segments on especially right-wing media. Tucker Carlson's gonna go insane. It looks like the number of white people in America has decreased. Oh no! Sam Cedar.
Oh no!
Oh, it's yep. It's happening. The Census 2020 data reveals the first recorded drop in the U.S.'s non-Hispanic white population. The U.S. Census Bureau released the data it collected from the 2020 census on Thursday. The data shows that the U.S. became more diverse in the last decade, with the first recorded drop in the U.S.'s non-Hispanic white population. The data also revealed almost all of the nation's population growth occurred in the cities. Tucker suicide watch. Starting today. He's gonna implode. His head is gonna catch on fire. get your popcorn, everybody. Wow. Should be fun. So, all right. Yeah, interesting stuff. Maybe I'll get into more detail on tomorrow's show about this. I'll probably cover Tucker Carlson. So, oh no, white people are being canceled and replaced. Oh no. How dare this country become more diverse? Oh no. I, for one, welcome our diverse overlords. I know. All right. Oh, the malding is going to be so good. Oh, the conservative tears. I'm going to drink them up. Like this seltzer. Yeah. All right. Anyway. Hey, please like and share the stream before we get started. Very helpful if you do so. Definitely appreciate it. So, yeah, hit the like button, smash the like button, do the shares, all the fun stuff. And then, hey, if you want the shirt that I'm wearing, I'm putting a link in the chat. So, just joined. Is this about the AP article? Yeah, I actually did. Oh, hold on. I lost it. I think it was the Associated Press. Yes. That's the Census Bureau. There's also, of course, New York Times that talked about this. So, yeah, should be fun. Talk about more in depth tomorrow. But that said, we're gonna go to the final day of Mike Pillow. Our Mike Pillow Hog Watch coverage. Let's dive in. Is it the shirt? Is it the shirt you're actually wearing? No. What are you talking about? What do you mean? All right. All right. It appears that Mike Lindell's Cyber Symposium, well, it's on its final day, but it is not going quite as he planned. So now, I've talked about this for the last couple of days. First, they were delayed by supposed cyber attack. They were attacked. They attacked me. Who's they? Mike Lindell. Who's attacking you? Oh, obviously, it's got to be the same people that were, that had tried to hack the election. So apparently China, I don't know. And of course, then you had the next day in which the hogs got a little restless, which was noted by Steve Bannon, who was saying, hey, great video, great film, great propaganda, please. Oh, did I say that out loud? But no proof. Where's the proof? Where's the beef? There ain't no beef. All right? There ain't no proof. And now, to go along with that, we have Mike Pillow's cyber expert that is saying, yeah, we got nothing. We got nothing. The Washington Times, yeah, it's a conservative outlet, is reporting that Lindell had hired cyber expert Josh Merritt to analyze his so-called irrefutable evidence that hackers backed by China, you remember the bamboo ballots, broke into electronic voting systems and swung the election for President Joe Biden, which of course is literally impossible because it's not hooked up to the internet, but okay, all right. Lindell claims to have a total of 37 terabytes of network data that will prove large-scale cyber attack occurred on America's voting system. Oh, I got the packets. I got the packets. My pocket's full of the packets. And we got the dumps. The big massive dumps. We're gonna prove it. Unfortunately, Merritt has told the Washington Times that the so-called packet captures are unrecoverable. Oh, we can't recover the packet captures. Oh, that's interesting. And that Lindell's data cannot prove any sort of malfeasance from China. Now, before, of course, you decide you want to label me pro-China, China's an authoritarian government. Why would it be pro-China? That is ridiculous. China is a closed society. The tankies that are watching, you realize you were never, ever going to be a Chinese citizen. They are a literal closed society. Just saying. Just saying. All right. So now, that said, even so, with Merritt says that the data accomplished something. Oh, here's a quote from him first. So our team said, we're not going to say that this is legitimate if we don't have confidence in the information. Even so, as I said, Merritt said, well, but we do have some forensic proof that voters were somehow manipulated. Okay, but that's not proof of election fraud. That voters themselves, not the votes, but voters themselves, somehow manipulated. Okay, well, interesting. Sure. And of course, the proof of that was eaten by Mike Pillow's dog, right? Just like his homework. So, now, he also added that Lindell, remember, he had this offer of $5 million. He's going to pay $5 million for any in-seminar attendee who could disprove him, right? Well, not anymore. There's a reason that he has canceled that. He has canceled the $5 million. Now, why would he do that? Oh, is it because he can't actually prove his claims? Well, I mean, if it were a rational person, perhaps. But I'm actually going to get back to that point just a little later. The Times also reported that cyber experts at the Symposium had been frustrated with Lindell for not providing them with his data, even though Lindell appears to be recycling video from his debunked election fraud documentary and trying to pass it off as his so-called packet captures. And I talked about that yesterday. I showed the video with Steve Bannon, and he's like, oh, it's very well done documentary, very, very well. But apparently that's, we're going to have some receipts. We're going to need some actual evidence here, okay? Well, again, he's right. You do need evidence. If you're going to make these grandiose claims, then you're going to have to show some receipts. You're going to have to show some evidence, right? And that 15-minute documentary, which is very flashy, apparently very well done, according to Steve Bannon, is not proof. It's not actual evidence. It's nothing. It's less than nothing. It's worth less than nothing. All right? It cannot debunk the fact that the entire premise made by Mike Pillow and the rest of these, Donald Trump and all the rest of these conspiracy theorists, that it cannot debunk one single simple point. The fact that these election machines, these voting machines by Dominion, were not plugged into the internet. You can't hack something from China if it's not plugged into the internet. The best conspiracy, and watch, they'll go to this one, is that you had to have somebody in the room to have physical access to the machines in order to change the votes. Now, of course, you've had these successive audits that have been backed up by the paper ballots in many of these places where they're challenging this, and it shows that the paper ballots, the backup ballots, match the vote totals in the machines. So again, once again, nothing, no proof. That's it. Literally impossible to do. It's not going to work out. Okay. And not only that, but there's, of course, so-called witnesses that can't even corroborate the same story. It smells of desperation. And that's what it is. It stinks. It stinks like
Dumps.
And so there it is. That's all they have is dumps. That said, speaking of dumps, this is my favorite quote here from Josh Merritt in that piece in the Washington Times. He said, quote, "We were handed a turd, and I had to take that turd and turn it into a diamond." And that's what I think we did. No, that ain't no diamond. That ain't no diamond. It's
Big, massive dumps.
That's what it is. It's a dump. It's a polished turd is still a turd. Now, that said, I promised to get back to why Lindell might have pulled his $5 million prize pledge for debunking his evidence, right? Any in-person attendee. Well, again, you could just say, well, he has no evidence. And that's true. But it also might have something to do with his incoming lawsuit. A federal judge ruled on Wednesday that the Dominion voting systems can move forward with their billion-dollar lawsuit against Lindell, Sidney Powell, and of course our friend Rudy Giuliani. Yes. For defaming the company in their attempts to delegitimize the election. This comes after Mike Lindell literally was begging the company to sue him. Come on, do it. Sue me. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, no!
They're suing me. You asked for it. So it turns out he might actually need that $5 million. Real bad. And it gets better. It gets better. How does Lindell have any money left? Pillow sales. Lots of pillow sales. From Trump supporters. Okay. So they have proprietary software making it hard to actually independently check for vulnerabilities and accuracy. I'm not sure about those particular machines, to be fair. And I do know that there were machines that if you hooked them up to the internet, there are vulnerabilities. There's a group of teenagers that were able to crack it in like 10 minutes. So, but these are not hooked up to the internet. And that's the important part. That's why Lindell's theory completely falls apart. How did he ever make money with crappy pillows? Advertising, friends. Advertising. And again, you also have paper backups in a lot of these places that do the paper ballots. And so if you have, because a lot of the voting machines understand too, and we're not just talking about like the touchscreen voting machines, which have always been a little shady, but we're talking about the machines where you fill out the paper ballot and you put the ballot inside of it and it sucks it right in. That's the ones that we're talking about, where you have paper ballot backups. And those are the ones that are being audited and match what the machine had put out. So just letting you know, like there's nothing here. It's a nothing burger. And I understand that there are legitimate concerns with the touchscreen voting machines. And I've shared those concerns for a long time, that I think that we should do fully paper ballots. But understand that what they're alleging here is just simply impossible for them to do. That's the machine I voted with. Fill the paper out, put it in the machine. Exactly, Spicy Dragon. And I do this, and you know, all the machines around here, and you get the confirmation that your ballot was counted. Yes, and those are the machines that we have here. In every place I've never had the actual touch screens. But again, we've seen them change, interestingly enough, change to Republicans before because of, software or so-called software errors. No security is 100% true, which is bringing up my argument before how the right went black and white absolutes and like dudes, life don't work that way. Yeah, no, that's true. And I brought that point yesterday, as far as I'm getting derailed, but I brought up the point yesterday where it's kind of like with the vaccines, right? Or with, gun control measures. Republicans are claiming that they want that if something doesn't work 100% or is 100% effective or safe or whatever, that we should just scrap the whole thing, and that there's that we should just ignore it, that we should throw it out. And that's, again, you're right, that's not how reality actually works. And that's not a good thing to do, especially if something is incredibly effective or incredibly secure. And nothing is going to be 100%, but if you're at 99% or 98%, I'd say you're doing pretty good, and we should probably keep that system. So, paper is a left-wing conspiracy. All right, anyway, more cope and seethe. During his cyber symposium, Mike Pillow might have gotten some bad news. You see, on Wednesday, a judge in Washington, D.C. had denied Mike Pillow's motion to dismiss the massive defamation lawsuit against him filed by Dominion Voting Systems. And we might actually have some video of him after he found out. Take a look.
Republican counties are being won by Trump, but by a much smaller number than projected. And then you have Philadelphia much closer and able to do its thing because Rudy Giuliani will tell you Philadelphia is the kingpin of election fraud. But it wasn't possible without stuff like this.
Gone. Gone. He's out. Dude is outie. Look, okay, to be fair, a little bit of clickbait, all right? There's actually no indication that Lindell's exit was directly related to the ruling, but I wouldn't be surprised. Because if I were facing a lawsuit that would leave me completely bankrupt, because I couldn't afford $1.6 billion, and in fact, honestly, make me bankrupt wouldn't take much. And I just heard that news. Oh no, I would be like, I gotta go. I gotta go.
Oh no!
Get out of here. I gotta get out of here. Do something else. So yeah, now some details that I found interesting from that ruling that happened yesterday, which by the way is not just affecting Mike Lindell, it's also hitting Sidney Powell and of course our buddy Rudy Giuliani. So much for the Kraken lady, you are sunk. Now the ruling proceeded to counter the defendant's arguments that for getting the Dominion lawsuit dismissed, and it argued that Dominion has adequately alleged that Powell had made a number of statements that are actionable because a reasonable juror could conclude that they were either statements of fact or statements of opinion that relied upon facts or that implied or relied upon facts that are provably false. So actual just lies. So obviously that's the definition of defamation, when you put out false statements when you know that the statements are false. If you're making things up and presenting them as fact and saying, oh, don't worry, we got the evidence to prove it, and then you don't present the evidence, well, then you're going to get in trouble. That's not good. It does not play well in a court of law. And that's what's important. So now the ruling was made by Judge Carl Nichols, who was appointed by the president, by the former president, President Donald Trump, to the bench back in 2018. So I remember when they were rushing to fill these seats, these bench seats, after they had blocked, the Republicans had blocked pretty much every single Democratic nominee to any of these local benches. Well, it turns out, even if it's a Trump-appointed judge, they don't always back Donald Trump, and that's good to see. It's good to see that system works. In this ruling, apparently, says Dominion can go ahead and proceed. In fact, I love some of the language that Judge Nichols had used. He said, while citing the outlandish claims by the experts like Russell Ramsland, who had authored a report on the Michigan election, saying that it was full of errors and conspiracy theories. He pointed out that Ramsland also has a history of false and irrational claims, and here are some of those claims. He wrote in his opinion, that expert has also claimed George Soros, President George H.W. Bush's father, the Muslim Brotherhood, and a numerous undefined leftists had gotten together to help form the deep state in Nazi Germany back in the 1930s. Which would have been a remarkable feat for Soros, who was born in 1930. You know what? Time traveling George Soros. That's what's going on. No, it's bonkers. It's absolutely ridiculous. They are not, I repeat, not sending their best. That guy, oh God, and he lives in the same state. Oh Jesus Christ, Dumb people walk among us, everybody. Really, really dumb people. Unhinged. I don't even want to touch the claims because they're just so ridiculously laughable. They're spewing hot garbage. But unfortunately, you have enough people that are going to believe. Do you know that George Soros is actually, over 100 years old, and he was a secret Nazi, even though he's Jewish, by the way, which is an interesting claim that a lot of people on the right are doing, and of course, it's deeply anti-Semitic as well, because you've got the tropes of the people pulling the strings, George Soros, President George H.W. Bush's father, the Muslim Brotherhood. Come on. Again, not sending their best. Unhinged. Now, as for Lindell, Nichols writes this, quote, in totality, it is adequately alleged that Lindell made his claims knowing that they were false or with reckless disregard for the truth. Bam. Nailed him.
You're full of shit.
That's what he just told Lindell. Look, here's the interesting thing. I'm not sure if I 100% agree with that. Oh, no, okay, wait a minute. Whoa. No, hear me out. I've been saying all along, Mike Pillow is high on his own supply. In some cases, perhaps literally. Although I cannot prove anything. I believe he thinks he's I believe that he believes his bullshit. Okay, and that maybe his brain is so addled from years of drug abuse that he thinks, oh no, I've fucking nailed it. And maybe also that he's got both his personality and his business that are wrapped into it. And so I think there's a huge level of personal interest in this, into making this appear to be true. And of course, he also makes money off of it. Sells a lot of pillows to Trump supporters, and the hogs, But I also think that there's a part of him that says, no, I do believe it. They stole it from me. They stole the election from me. Remember, there was an interview that he had with David Pakman, which was hilarious. You should check it out. I know, even if you don't like David Pakman, that is definitely worth a watch. And he said, oh no, I had a dream where I met Donald Trump. And of course, that dream has to mean something. No, it doesn't mean anything. It's a dream. Again, maybe I'm giving him too much credit for creating his own insane reality. And maybe he is just a grifter. But I'm pretty convinced that he believes his own lies. I don't really know. But what I do know is that the guy better start pinching his pennies. As or maybe you should get a cameo like Rudy Giuliani.
I have not loved this conversation.
Because, $199. Can you believe how cheap Rudy Giuliani actually is? I don't know how much Lindell would get off cameo, but whatever it is, you better start doing a lot of cameos because you won't need it. It was a great interview. I don't always agree with David Pakman on certain things, but seems like a decent guy and does some pretty good interviews. All right, $275 a pop. Hey, Toolman Tim, that's great. I'm glad you found my channel through David. That's great. I love to see it. I love to see it. Lot of Pac-Man love in the chat. That's good. All right. Let's move on. Let's get away from Mike Pillow and get to Dan Crenshaw. So this is more for fun. All right. Representative Dan Crenshaw was recently heckled during a GOP fundraising dinner in Rosemont, Illinois. And so now he was heckled by this candidate for U.S. Senate who decided he was going to interrupt and disagree with Crenshaw about whether or not the 2020 election was stolen. And it gets hilarious. Take a look.
I can't tell if these jokes are serious.
Problems, but don't kid yourself into believing that's why we lost. It's not. It's not.
You're wrong.
I'll tell you openly.
You're wrong.
And I'm not wrong.
Yes, you are. I have plenty of proof. I have proof in Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Georgia.
You did the Maricopa.
Yeah.
How did that turn out?
And guess what? It's going to turn out, and it's going to flip.
Okay,
you watch. You're going to see firsthand.
It won't. And you've got to flip all 5 states to make it.
You know how they're stealing the elections?
All right. I'm not going to argue with this. I'm not going to argue with this. It's just something. Look, I'll say it openly. This is something you got to accept. Is there a lot of voter fraud?
He is right.
Probably is. Enough that Trump won? No, absolutely not.
You'll see.
Absolutely not. 5 different states,
yes.
Hundreds of thousands of votes.
Yes.
You'll see. My. Isn't it the consequences of my own actions? There it is. And again, this comes from, it is mainly the Republican Party that had been allowing these morons to continue to drive the narrative that the 2020 election was stolen. It's really funny to see them. And now these Republicans, and by the way, where I originally got the article from, some conservative website, I was like, establishment Republican Dan Crenshaw. Okay. But hey, no, you're wrong, Jeff. I got the proof. Okay, where is it? Where's proof that China hacked the election? I gotta ask you: is China in the room with you right now? Is Dominion in there? Is the deep state here too? What about the lizard people? Where is it? Where's the proof? No, clowns, all of them, clowns. So now this is Pitton. Yeah, I didn't bother to really learn his first name. But he claims to have, quote, literally combed through the millions of election voter data in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, and several other states. Here's what he said. It is disgusting to hear denials from a sitting do-nothing and intellectually dishonest congressman in our House of Representatives. Crenshaw, who has done nothing but shill for the Democrats and refused to even see or hear the evidence. Fraud. Oh, okay. So I got questions. For one, how did you get access to all that voter data? I mean, that's curious, right? You somehow got access to election data in all of these different states. Really? And how did you sift through all of that on your own? How did you do it? It seems a little impossible. I got questions, and I can guarantee you have no answers. This is more cope and seethe. It's copium for the masses, for the hogs. Look, and by the way, even if they had so-called evidence, right? There's no mechanism to replace the sitting president, for reinstating a former president in the Constitution. You're all living in a completely different reality. It's not real. It's not real. You want Trump back? Okay, vote for him in 2024. But please, stop crying fraud about an election that you lost. Stop being a loser and stop kissing Trump's ass. And this is the problem here. So Dan Crenshaw, weirdly enough, and I have a million problems with Dan Crenshaw. Dan Crenshaw is now dealing with the fallout of the party handing the reins over to the asylum. They let the crazies take over. And now, even like Dan Crenshaw is like, no, dude, that's cringe. No, that's too much. Of course, the election was legitimate. And so, but if you do that, you saw the room. The hogs will pile on. Oh, how dare you? The China, the deep state, you're shilling for the Democrats. Blah. And look, By the way, let's be honest about Republicans in Congress. Of course they're intellectually dishonest do-nothings that don't really care about the truth and facts. Their entire existence is to serve their corporate donors. The donors, and this is why this matters and how I tie this in, the donors, they don't really care for all this weird conspiracy talk coming from the fringe right. And I say fringe right, but really they have taken over a lot of the Republican Party. And so you've got this split. You've got the split between the older establishment Republicans that are backed by the big money, the Koch money and things like that. And then, well, you've got the other Republicans that are backed also by big money, interestingly enough, but also by small donor money. And so, you've got the Mercers, for example, that back people like Ted Cruz during the election, and other, assorted billionaires that are funding Republican politicians that are buying into this nonsense. And really, they don't believe it, but they're going to take the money anyway and say, oh, yes, whatever you say, donors. But you have that schism. And then, of course, a lot of these so-called, populist Republicans who are pushing these conspiracy theories are backed by a lot of the voters. And they realize that they have to be crazy in order to appeal to those voters. And so that's the problem. They have to come out and say, oh, I believe in insane things, or else you're not going to get those voters or those small donor donations. And so, believe it or not, it's actually pretty hard to be a Republican right now. Not that I feel bad for him. Not that anybody should cry for Dan Crenshaw. Again, he's terrible, and obviously he's going for the big donor money. And yes, maybe it's true to call him an establishment Republican, but this really does show you that there's a big schism in the Republican Party that's brought on by it being a cult of Trump. Because now you have a large section of the Republican Party that are part of that cult for just one man. It's not going to end well for anyone. And Denshaw. Y'all. Tomorrow it's supposed to be Trump reinstatement day. And then the liberals, they're gonna cry. Sure. Texas Republicans are embarrassing right now. Yeah, why are they doing all that when they should be worrying about, Texas's power problems, maybe fixing the grid and making sure that massive heat waves, don't knock out the power for millions of people. Same. That would be nice if they actually gave a shit. Or to be a corporate Democrat. It's actually a lot easier because you still get that money. Pelosi's a Democrat. Let's look at her voting record. Her voting record is fairly conservative. I know. I'm not sure why you say that. Like, you know, I'm not on Team Pelosi. And it feels like whataboutism in a way. Like, y'all know how I feel about Nancy Pelosi. Just saying. All right. Anyway, let's go to Rand Paul. Why not? Pelosi and Crenshaw can both be trash humans. This is very true. Very true. All right. Like I said, Rand Paul. Senator Rand Paul is facing some heat after a recent report showing that his wife had bought stock in a company that was treating COVID-19 but failed to report it. Oh no. On Wednesday, the Washington Post reported that 16 months ago, during the height of the pandemic before the vaccines, the wife of Senator Rand Paul bought stock in Gilead Sciences, the company behind a broad-spectrum antiviral called remdesivir that was used to treat COVID-19 before vaccines were widely available. Now, Rand Paul did not report this as required by law. And of course, he's going to throw his wife under the bus, which is fun. But according to the law, members of Congress have 45 days to report stock purchases, which means that Paul has been in violation of stock disclosure rules or the Stock Act for more than a year. And so let me just be clear where I stand here. I don't think any senator should own stock. I think that's ridiculous. There's a clear conflict of interest. But let me get into the details. And before I also add, lock him up. The investment, but especially the delayed reporting of it, alarmed experts in corporate and securities law, who said it undermined trust in the government. What trust? And raised questions about whether Paul's family had profited from non-public information about the looming health emergency and plans by U.S. government to combat it, writes Washington Post reporter Isaac Stanley Becker. So that's important because they had the information about COVID-19 and the possible impacts on the economy as well as, of course, people's lives. And what did they do with that information? Instead of making it public, they and many other senators, including Democrats, went and made stock purchases or, shuffled around their portfolios instead of letting us know. And by the way, as I'm going to mention later on in the story, there were Republicans putting out press releases about COVID-19, say, oh, yeah, no, totally, it's going to be fine, while secretly trading stock. It's amazing that in the short time since then, we have completely forgotten about all of this. On to the next crisis. Mainstream media, why are you still not talking about these stock disclosures? Anyway, so now, according to that same Washington Post article, several senators had sold large amounts of stocks in January or February of last year, prompting a handful of insider trading probes. Most of those investigations had concluded last spring, according to notifications from the Justice Department to the lawmakers under scrutiny. So now, like I said, why is this even legal? It should be considered insider trading. A lot of these congressmen, all of them should step down, and we should have strict rules preventing anyone from owning stock who works for the government. It doesn't matter if it's managed by somebody else. It is a conflict of interest. It is corruption when you can own shares of companies that you will be making decisions over as a public representative. You're a public servant. You're supposed to fucking act like it. All right? Another good example, by the way, before I get back to Rand Paul, is Senator Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin literally makes double his congressional salary from investments in fossil fuel companies. And as a result, of course, he tried to tank or threatened to tank the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. And I said, oh, it's too expensive. I can't afford. I don't think we as a country can afford that. Oh, look, inflation, whatever. No, what he wants to do is to gum up the works to stop that from passing so that it would have to go back to negotiations of where he could try to strip out the climate provisions alongside with the Republicans. Why? Because once again, he has his personal investments and he's being lobbied by fossil fuel corporations. And it's horrible. It's made even worse, by the way, by the recent IPCC report, which says we absolutely have to do decarbonization as soon as we can, as soon as possible. And here you have the Biden administration and people like Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, that are still trying to, and look, Joe Biden doesn't get off the hook as well. He may have canceled the Keystone XL pipeline, but he still approved Line 3, which is another tar sands pipeline. He is not doing good for the environment as well, and continues to renew and sign leases for fracking. He refuses to ban fracking. And so here we have a situation where, again, you have all this corruption going on, all this influence by fossil fuel companies and large corporations in our government. And owning stock is a part of that. It's a I don't know if it's a large part of that, but it's definitely a part of that corruption. All right. Back to Rand Paul. Rand Paul, and this, again, this is a great example of the corruption of having, and a good reason why we should not have any sort of congressman owning any stock anywhere. Paul, as a result, has repeatedly attacked the science of public health restrictions to prevent the spread of COVID-19. He has demanded that Dr. Fauci, the nation's top advisor on pandemic, answer conspiracy theories about so-called gain of function. He might want to have a gain of function performed on his brain, because it doesn't seem to have much. And these conspiracies, of course, go back to, Dr. Fauci was in Wuhan, and he was directing this lab. I mean, this is straight out of, Marjorie Taylor Greene's insane playbook. But he's echoing this too, that we were engineering the virus, or Fauci was engineering the virus in order to, release it and sit back and laugh maniacally about it. Insane. He also claimed that people wearing masks are science deniers, urged mass disobedience against the CDC, and this week got temporarily kicked off YouTube. I talked about that earlier, for spreading medical misinformation. Now, you might ask, well, how is this evidence of corruption? Maybe he's just a dumbass. Think about it this way. The more people that are seriously sick with COVID-19, the more need there would be for treatments like remdesivir. Meaning more profit for Gilead, meaning more dividends for Rand Paul. Talk about the money. I mean, you got to follow it. Follow the money. You think he's taking these positions because he knows better than the doctors? I mean, look, he's a self-certified eye doctor. So, I don't know. But I do know he doesn't know shit about epidemiology. You know what he's talking about. It doesn't matter to him who dies. Rand Paul's got to try to make a buck. And the reason he didn't report it is because it looks pretty bad. Now, of course, he's going to come back and do an excuse, as I mentioned. He's going to throw his wife under the bus, which is fun. Kelsey Cooper, spokeswoman for Paul, said the senator completed a reporting form for his wife's investment last year, but learned only recently, while preparing an annual disclosure, that the form had not been transmitted. So I guess maybe it's less throwing his wife under the bus, or maybe he's throwing himself under the bus for not sending it out, or his wife, whatever. I don't know. But he's trying to blame something. He had sought guidance later on from the Senate Ethics Committee and filed the supplemental report along with an annual disclosure on Wednesday. Oops, I just forgot this very important thing that could, implicate me for corruption. Okay. And now, she also said that Paul's wife, Kelly, who was an author and former communications consultant, had lost money on the investment, which she made with her own earnings. The purchase was between $1,000 and $15,000 of stock in Gilead, which makes the antiviral drug known as remdesivir, as I mentioned. And so, well, if that's true and she lost money, well, that just means she's a terrible investor. Oof. All that for nothing. Sad. Well done. Now, look, some of you might be angry that I'm calling in corrupt, but understand that's what Washington is. All but a few exceptions, all of Washington is corrupt. Now, remember, before the vaccines, there were people that were pushing hydroxychloroquine that ended up having investments in the companies that made hydroxychloroquine. This is not an accident. They all had information on the inside. They were already briefed about this. And then, as I said, instead of telling people, instead of warning the public, they went out and made their own, switched out their own portfolios. Now, another example of that is Tom Tillis. Tom Tillis holds a major financial stake in several of the pharmaceutical producers of hydroxychloroquine, including Sanofi and Novartis. And of course, Trump himself had investments, and that's why he was pushing hydroxychloroquine. And I believe, I'm not entirely 100% sure, but I'm guessing that Rand Paul was also pushing hydroxychloroquine at the time. Fun. You also had Richard Burr, another congressman. Kelly Loeffler, who was married to New York State Stock Exchange head Jeffrey Sprecher, who after this meeting had bought stock in these very same companies, as well as medical supply companies following the January 24, 2020 meeting about the threat of COVID-19. Senator David Perdue also started buying about $185,000 in stock in DuPont, a company that makes personal protective equipment, or PPE, on the same day as the Senate briefing up to March 2nd. Additionally, John Hoeven of North Dakota purchased $250,000 in health science companies in January, 5 days after attending the briefing about the pandemic. And on February 7th, Senator Burr, as I mentioned before, stated in an open editorial on how the government could respond to coronavirus and said that, quote, luckily we have a framework in place that has put us in a better position than any other country to respond to a public health threat like the coronavirus. However, on February 13th, he and his wife sold about $628,000 and $1.7 million worth of stock through 33 transactions. And on February 27th, Burr stated that there is one thing I can tell you about this. It is much more aggressive in its transmission than anything we have seen in recent history. And this was at a Capitol Hill luncheon, and a statement was later leaked on a secret recording. So, yeah. And on March 19th, ProPublica had published an article showing that Burr had sold stock shortly before the correction, and Loeffler, Jim Inhofe, and Dianne Feinstein stock selling was also reported. So, this is why congressmen should not be allowed to own stock. 100%. Rand Paul, I understand the stories about Rand Paul, but Rand Paul, I think, is no more corrupt than a lot of them. He just tried to hide it and got busted. Stone cold busted. But then they all did. But they still did it because, well, I guess they were tasked to investigate themselves. And when you let that happen, well, golly gee, wouldn't you know it? We didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. But again, Rand Paul, what makes it more insidious than just not being honest about coronavirus and how dangerous it is, like Richard Burr, he actually is now urging people to do the wrong thing. The wrong thing that's going to end up helping them get either sick or killed, all in order, I guess, to make back the money from his failed investments. And that makes Rand Paul an absolutely loathsome, corrupt, disgusting human being. Funny it is, funny how people, how common it is for people to forget financial disclosures. True. Very, very true. All right, moving on. All right. Couple more stories, y'all. A Capitol rioter has an interesting new excuse as to why he shouldn't get jail time. Ready for this one? The attorney from Robert Reeder, who pleaded guilty to joining the Capitol riot on January 6, claims in a new court filing that the 55-year-old took a train from Maryland to Washington, D.C. to hear President Donald Trump speak at a Stop the Steal rally because he was bored. He had nothing better to do. And had made a, quote, spur-of-the-moment decision and a regrettable mistake when he followed the crowd into the Capitol building, to which he says, well, I didn't know that it was, I wasn't allowed to go there. I had no idea. I was just I was just an accidental tourist. Right. Mr. Reeder, according to his defense attorney, Robert Bonsib, Mr. Reeder is not particularly politically active, is not, and has never been a member of any right-wing or anti-government or extremist group, and has been, unfortunately, publicly grouped in with many others whose views he abhors. The lawyer claims that Reeder attended the Trump rally, which had been heavily promoted by right-wing social media, because he thought it might be the last time he would hear Trump speak, and he said he did not care much for President Trump, although he favored some of President Trump's policies. I wonder which ones. And he was not a strong supporter of his Democratic opponent in the election. Let me just note that I was also not a strong supporter of Joe Biden. Let's just say that. That didn't mean that I was going to go and join the Trump Stop the Steal rally. I mean, but I guess for him, I guess, hey, even though I don't really care for Donald Trump, I still bought his merchandise and still invaded a federal building on his behalf. Yeah, you know what that reminds me? I too also do stuff like that for politicians that I don't like. Has anybody seen my Nancy Pelosi coffee mug? Oh, right. I left it in the basement that Pelosi left Medicare for all, where she buried it. What a ridiculous argument. Oh, no, I was bored, so I invaded the Capitol, even though I really didn't care about Donald Trump at all. No. He was caught wearing a MAGA hat and screaming, "Fight for Trump." Oops. Wow. Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah. That's a no for me, dog. I'm not buying that one. Ridiculous. Do we look as stupid as you are? But this new defense, again, comes after the last dumb one. As I mentioned, he was an accidental tourist. Prosecutors noted in a court filing on Friday that he had recorded himself breaching the Capitol twice, recorded a video of a police officer's assault, and boasted that he had battled the police. But he was just an accidental tourist. Here's what prosecutors wrote on that. The defendant should ask the court to believe that despite being tear gassed and shot with pepper balls, he was simply unaware that entry into the Capitol was prohibited at that time. A clear message must be sent to this defendant that he is being held responsible for all of his illegal conduct during the riots. Tellingly, the reader continues to minimize his conduct as an accidental tourist with a phone, trying to document everything. The defendant chose to stand among the crowd and record as they held, "Hang Mike Pence." Or, "Hang my pants." That's what they were saying. Oh, I couldn't tell. They were saying, "Hang my pants. Hang my pants." For the defendant, this is according to U.S. Assistant Attorney Joshua Rothstein. For the defendant, these unlawful acts were a source of pride and accomplishment. For the nation, it was a permanent source of shame, sorrow. I really thought I heard it all. Oh, I was defending the muffins, and I was singing the song of my people. It's the QAnon shaman guy. Oh no, I wasn't there to overthrow it. I was defending democracy. Oh yes. Oops, I was an accidental tourist. And now, I'm actually a Democrat, and I didn't even really like Trump. I was just bored. Ridiculous. It's the dumbest excuse I have ever seen. It's comical. Now, what this guy has is obviously he seems to be lying. And he has no remorse and doesn't actually want to take responsibility for his actions. Whatever happened to personal responsibility? Whatever happened? Oh, it turns out it doesn't exist. Not for these people, which are overwhelmingly, and this is why, by the way, people who have never experienced consequences in their entire lives, because they're fairly wealthy, well-to-do. You can't just quit your job or not work that day, fly out to D.C. and sometimes a private jet, as some of these people have been, and go out and invade the Capitol. You don't do that as a working class person because you're too busy to survive, trying to survive, and working your ass off. No, these are well-to-do people. These are upper middle class, business owners. Those are the people that invaded the Capitol. And they are never used to having any sort of, consequences for their terrible actions. And that's what we're seeing with the MAGA cultists. And in fact, in their mind, in a lot of their minds, they don't believe they did anything wrong except for get caught. Accidental tourism, savior of the muffins. The excuses are amazing. Yes.
Amazing.
Absolutely. All right. One more story for you all. Marjorie Taylor Greene. You've been waiting for it. Here it is. Jeff, I self-certified you as president. What am I? What am I, Pete Buttigieg or Juan Guaido? I have come back. I've made history tonight. I'm declaring myself president of the United States. Oh, all right. Can we call illegal immigrants accidental tourists? Oh, they would hate that, wouldn't they? All right. Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene recently shrugged off the surge in COVID-19 hospitalizations among the unvaccinated by saying, can't live forever.
I talked to local hospitals here in my district and here in my state. Yes, the waiting rooms get full, but guess what? The waiting rooms are full of all kinds of things, not just COVID, some, car accidents, trauma, other illnesses, cancer, and so forth. But they're seeing about 30% of those numbers being COVID cases. So while the news tries to tell us the hospitals are slam-packed with COVID, that's just not the case. Everyone needs to get back down to common sense and remember that, we're human. We can't live forever. We are going to catch all kinds of diseases and illnesses and other viruses, and we get hurt sometimes.
All right, so before I get into my commentary, I just want to thank Left Lane Vets for the raid. Everybody on Twitch, go follow them back. They're based, so everybody follow that channel. Welcome, Raiders. We're actually wrapping up the show with our last segment on Marjorie Taylor Greene, as you can see. So, there it is. Hey, people, look, they die all the time, right? It's just the way it is. They get sick, they die. We don't live forever. Except for Benghazi. Hillary lied. People died. Obama. They lied. Ashley Babbitt. How dare you kill those American patriots? Oh, wait, hold on. I thought people died all the time. What are you talking about? Oh, you mean people with the virus that you don't actually believe in? Okay. Oh, great. Got you. Look, of course, she's full of crap. For one, she is out there minimizing a virus that is killing people. Of course, it's killing her people. Because this is a disease of the unvaccinated. But she's also lying about hospitalizations. Let me give you the actual numbers here. So one of the hot spots that's happening is in Mississippi. Big surprise. Okay, Mississippi is averaging nearly 2,700 new COVID-19 infections a day just during this past week. 54% spike in the past 7 days, according to data compiled by the Washington Post. The state reported more than 4,400 newly reported cases and 20 deaths on Thursday. More than 1,500 people in the state are hospitalized, and nearly 400 ICU beds are filled with infected patients. The number of ICU beds filled and the ventilators in use in Mississippi have surpassed the winter months, previously the state's worst period of the pandemic. That just shows how bad it's getting. Now, health officials in Mississippi say the state's hospital system, it's gotten so bad that it could collapse in 5 to 10 days if the current trajectory continues. The entire healthcare system in Mississippi will collapse. This is what we've tried to avoid. This is what the mask mandates are there to avoid. This is what the lockdowns were there to avoid. All right. Look, nobody likes wearing masks. I get it. Nobody likes locking down. Totally understand, especially when you have a government that will not support people during a lockdown. I get it. But this is what it was meant to avoid, having these hospitals that are filled up with people. Now, there's more. There's other states. Let me give you details on Arkansas. They have set a new record for hospitalizations, while one official in Florida County is urging residents to, quote, consider other options before calling 911. Hey, better not call 911. We're full. Sorry, can't answer. Like it or not, had a clip from a man whose wife has stage 4 cancer, had to go home early because all the beds are being filled by COVID patients. It's exactly what's happening. Exactly. This is a disaster. Statewide, 90% of Florida's intensive care beds are full. And that's it. And it's not because, we're just getting back to normal and there's other patients and people get sick, blah, blah, blah. No, this is mostly COVID patients. As our friend Pagan Communist mentioned, that there are people who have cancer that cannot get treatment. They can't go in because they don't have the beds and they don't have the staff. So she is lying. She is gaslighting. She is completely ignoring the reality on the ground. I doubt very much that she spoke to even anyone who was a doctor or a health official who was in the middle of this crisis. It was actually dealing with these surges. And what's worse, by the way, this is all preventable. There's a way to actually put a stop to this, and that's to get a vaccine. Get a vaccine, wear the mask. We can end the human carnage, and that's what this is. It's carnage. By doing these two very simple things. It's amazing. Vaccines, they're actually free. But no, she's going to do now more misinformation or disinformation on vaccines. She's going to talk about how, I'm not anti-vax. We just need more research.
So this is concerning to me, and that's why I'm saying there's more research needed by the FDA before the FDA approves these vaccines. Because here's the problem, Anna. Once the vaccines are approved by the FDA, we are going to see the mandates for vaccines ramp up far more than they are right now. They're going to be mandated, and I fear they'll become law in some cities and some states. Biden would love to make it the law of the land, and I think that's completely wrong. Again, I'm not anti-vax. I am completely for people being allowed to make choices, medical choices for themselves and their families. And I don't think the FDA should approve a vaccine that it doesn't seem to be that effective, especially with COVID-19 raging all over the country. At least that's what the media tells us every single day.
I mean, at least that's what the media tells us every single day. Yeah. All right. You know what, Marjorie Taylor Greene, let me make a deal with you, okay? We give you time to do the research, right? In exchange for completely locking down the country and paying people to stay home. You can give people enough money to stay home. You know what? Hell, we'll throw in some subsidies for small businesses, only small businesses, right? While we shut down the economy, while everybody stays home, gets paid to play video games, while you do your research. All right? Are you up for that? I'm totally up for that. Oh, you don't want that? No, of course not. Of course not, because you don't care if people die. I love how she says, I'm not anti-vax. No, you are anti-vax. You rail against vaccines. You sow vaccine hesitancy and doubt. And there are communities, by the way, the Black community is a great example, that have reasons to be vaccine hesitant. Or in Canada, for example, the Indigenous communities, they have reasons, they have legitimate reasons to have some vaccine hesitancy, right? You're making it worse. You're making it worse by going out and spouting these ridiculous conspiracy theories. The vaccine is effective. It's actually very effective at not only preventing death, of course, from COVID-19, but also from you getting seriously ill from COVID-19. And also preventing hospitalizations, which right now is really bad. There is a lot of hospitalizations going on as a result of COVID-19, which, as I mentioned, is preventing other people from getting care. And it's already bad enough in this country, since we don't have a single-payer healthcare system, we don't have Medicare for all. But you're just making it worse. You're making it worse. And by the way, the hospitalizations and deaths are all among the unvaccinated. And I'm not saying that you can't get a breakthrough infection too, from the way that from how much more contagious the Delta variant actually is. But most people who get a breakthrough infection end up only having mild symptoms, right? In the unvaccinated, it's far worse. Even if you don't die, And I know there's nuance to this, but here's the thing. People can get seriously, like, lifelong injuries to their organs, their lungs, from having COVID-19, even if they survive. It can damage your lungs. And by the way, you can also get something called long COVID, which, again, you deal with these COVID symptoms for a very, very long time, and you never seem to get rid of it. And by the way, long COVID, fun fact, this is for you guys, right? You MAGA, you Chads over on the MAGA side who think, yeah, I'm not gonna get the vaccine. I'm strong, right? You know that getting COVID-19 can give you erectile dysfunction. Get your prick. Save your dick. Real simple. Real simple. That's all I'm saying. Don't listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's a complete and utter dipshit. She's only looking out for herself. She's, one of the hogs that believes in all these ridiculous conspiracy theories that will get you killed or make your cock not work. Something to think about. Just get the vaccine. All right. That's all I've got for the show. We're going to do a raid in here on Twitch. Don't worry. So we're going to do that. Again, thank you, Left Flank Vets, for sticking around. Definitely give them a follow back. I also want to thank Dave Schmidt 311 for giving out a tier 1 sub. That's awesome. And then let's see. We'll go over here to YouTube. We got some super chats. Wow. Y'all have been very, very generous today. Let me get those out and give some shout outs to you as well for your incredible kindness. I do appreciate it. Very much so. Do it. All right. Pertirin, I said that right. Says, hope all the best for you in America. Kick COVID's ass, and the same for the vote restriction. Love from Sweden. Thank you very much. Much love to Sweden as well. Appreciate that. Scowlistic says, support independent media. Vote with your wallets. Thank you. Very kind $5. Lulu Girl, also thank you for very kind $2. Appreciate it. And Virginia Thomas, also known as the Ice Dragon, simply says, it's all about the money, Lebowski. Indeed. Indeed. All right. So, let's figure out who to raid today. Are going to raid. Let's see. We could raid into the Soros. We could raid into TYT, or KF Logan 1875, or the Nicole Sandler Show. Do that. I'm open to any one of those. I haven't done a KF Logan raid in a long time. I should probably do that. I have no idea what he's talking about, but that is a surprise. Surprise. All right. Anyway, thank you all. Like and share the stream if you haven't already. If you missed some of the videos, we put our videos up on YouTube every night starting about 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check out the clips, subscribe, become a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation, or I'm sorry, Jeff Waldorf. Wow, that's an old mistake and throwback. I apparently haven't hint that out for a while, but yeah, patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, and sign up to become a patron to support the show. All right. With all of that, again, thank you, love you all, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody.
There's some whores in this house. Wet ass P-word.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Please clap.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.